All right, I got a few books back from a pre-screen. I was just going to show you those real quick. Several of them are for a friend, and just a couple of them are for me. But before I do that, I want to give you a couple tips. The first one is if you're going to submit the same book in the same submission, let's say Wolverine #1. Let's say you got 3 copies. I would not put the 3 copies together on the sheet. It'll let you put Wolverine 1 and then quantity 3 if you want. But generally, when you submit books, they're not all going to be the same grade. So what you would want to do is put the highest grade first, early in the submission, somewhere in the middle. Put the second one, the mid-grade submission, the mid-grade copy, middle grade copy, not mid-grade. And then the one you think probably is the lowest grade, put that one at the bottom. So you want the grader, when they're doing the grading process, to get a fresh eyes on each one. Otherwise, you might just have them look at one of the books and say, it's like a 9.4. No, I'm going to give 9.4 to the other 2 books, assuming they're from the same batch or whatever. And I've had this, it's pretty common. I've seen lots of anecdotal evidence out there from different people submitting that if they submit the same book, they tend to get the same grade on all 2, 3, 4, 5 of those books. That is generally, should be like standard operating procedures for anybody out there submitting. Secondly, going along with that same theme, let's say you're doing a 25 book submission and you have anything ranging from several 9.8 candidates all the way down to some mid-grade 6.0, 5.0 candidates. Well, I always put the 9.8s at the top. That's what I want the grader to see when they first start looking at it. Now, if you're doing this through CBCS or maybe some of the other grading companies, they do theirs alphabetically, so this won't help you on those. But for CGC, it's whatever order you input them in the system is the way they're going to list, and probably the order in which the grader is going to grade these books. So I put all my 9.8 candidates, followed by my 9.6, 4s, 2s, all the way down to my mid-grade candidates that I find I don't have any evidence. I haven't done any, A/B testing of this. Call it gut, whatever, but just think about it psychologically. If I'm sitting down to grade some books and the first book I see is just this tremendously perfect book, the next book I see is tremendously perfect, I'm going to be feeling like, man, this guy has some high-grade books here. So, some of those books later in the submission might be borderline 9.6, 9.4. He might give it the 9.6 just because that seems to be the way things are progressing. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong with this way of doing things or philosophy in the comments. Maybe it doesn't matter. It shouldn't matter. But, I'm going to give myself all the best chances to maximize the grade on all of my books. I'm not saying I want to get grades I don't deserve on books. But if it's a borderline situation, why not maximize your chances for getting bumped up to the higher grade? So that's it for the 2 tips. Separate the books that are the same in different parts of the submission so you get fresh eyes on them. And 2, make sure that you put your highest grade books at the beginning of the submission and lowest grade at the bottom. So let's see what we got back. These first few are not my books, but they are beautiful McFarlane books, I believe all of them are. We got a Marvel Comics Presents, number 32. Beautiful, I believe, obviously McFarlane cover, I believe. This guy collects a lot of McFarlane, so that's generally, we're kind of on the same wavelength. That's why we're friends, right? So I clean and press some books occasionally for him. He buys a lot of books from me as well. This is a second printing, Batman 423. Beautiful copy. This thing is almost perfect. I think like almost borderline 9.9. But we got the 9.8 on that one. Second printing. There's actually fewer copies of that in the census than the first printing, although that doesn't make it more valuable in this case. We got a very, very difficult to get 9.8. Amazing Spider-Man 324 newsstand edition. This thing is a pain to get in a 9.8. I don't think I have this in a 9.8 in my collection. I actually do not. I got a hole in the wall over there that I got to fill with this book. But this is not my book. I'm going to send it to the guy, but maybe I'll stick it up there for just a little bit and enjoy it for a day or so before I ship it off. We got a Marvel Tales number 230 Dazzler cover. Once again, Todd McFarlane cover. I don't think this is a key in any other way. It's just one of these tremendously nice Todd McFarlane covers. And I think this one, Amazing Heroes 179, another McFarlane cover, is actually the only 9.8 on the census, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong, the last time I looked. You can look it up if you want. But yeah, to have the highest graded copy of a book and have it be a McFarlane, that's pretty cool, right? Very, very happy for him to have that. And the last but not least, one that he had been trying to get for a long time. I think he's tried numerous times to get it, and I finally was able to get it for him. This is Coyote number 12. I have a copy of this as well in my collection, 9.8. But very, very difficult book to get. I noticed that a lot of the copies are beat up a lot on the spine. A lot of the raw copies I see. A lot of that might just be like a bindery, factory defect, common defect. But they seem to hammer this book and do not give 9.8s on it very often. I think it's got a very low census count on that one as well. But yeah, McFarlane key like that. Very cool to have. This might be chronologically the first art he did. I can't remember off the top of my head. Somebody tell me in the comments. For some reason, I just can't remember this stuff. Now, one of my own books, Daredevil number 227. And yeah, the one cool thing you might notice about this one is the price. This is the Canadian price variant. Very, 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 very hard to come by this book, period. Much less in 9.8. So, yeah, got this for a really good price. And it's one of those books that doesn't come around very often. And, you know, it's got a smaller pool of people that would be buying Canadian price variants. But if you are into Daredevil and you're trying to get, you know, all of the variants and all of the keys, then this would probably be one that you would want in your collection. So, yeah. I mean, look at how many copies of 9.8s have sold if you look at GP analysis over the last few years. It might just be a couple, you know. So yeah, still got this one available. If you want to reach out to me, jim@approvedcollecting.com. I don't have it listed anywhere yet, and you're interested, just let me know. All right, last one, but certainly not least. This is my third one of these I've had in the last couple of weeks. Wolverine Limited Series number 1 in the newsstand. Now this was a $15, $16, $1,700 book recently. And I think it's come down. A couple non-white pages versions have sold for under $1,000. I think the white pages are still selling for $9,000 or even $1,100, maybe $1,200. I'm not sure. So I don't have this one listed either. So yeah, oh my Lord, that is such a beautiful book. It's like perfect. The centering is not quite perfect on that book, but it is just beautiful colors, very, very flat. Can't find a spine tick on it. This is like, you have a lot of yellowing issues on this book, but you can see obviously this one looks like the day it was purchased. So yeah, very successful submission. So I think we only got 8 out of 15 on that submission as far as 9.8s, which is fine because a lot of those were pushing the envelope. They were pretty borderline. They were borderline 9.46 or 8. Depending on how many of the defects on them happen to be bindery or factory, which I wasn't familiar with a lot of those books. So it doesn't surprise me to only get about 50, 55, whatever percent on this submission. Still a very successful submission for me. So that's all I had today. Thanks for watching. Stay nerdy. I'll see you in the next video.